Here, question is, does anybody know what the Supreme Court pendency at the moment is? Supreme Court alone, not total. 70,000. Right at the back there, very good. Gautam Chikarmane, talk to him about your all expenses paid trip. 70,000 in the Supreme Court, 4.7 crores total. 4.7 crore cases pending in total. Now, when is this going to get solved? We don't know. We have this concept of something called a pankaja. Pankaja is lotus. Panka is scum, aja, that is born of scum. Like, when you say in English, you're a scum man, punk, you're a punk. That's exactly what you say, pankaja. Why do we worship that? Why do we worship that? Lakshmi sits atop it, Saraswati sits atop it. Why? Because it is the only flower in nature which grows from scum and still emerges so pure. Because see, the truth can only emerge out of contradiction. It can only emerge out of confusion and a clash of ideas. Unfortunately, that is not how societies work. So, you talk to people, they'll say, oh, India is very corrupt, but the military is not like that. The judiciary is not like that. They are like pankaja. They are like the lotus coming out of this thing. Sociologically, that is an impossibility. Any institution of any country will be reflective of the overall sociological mean of that country. So if your country is basically lowly educated, third world, corrupt, the high likelihood is that your military, your judiciary, your civil services, your politicians are all going to be the same. It is just that some are better at hiding it, and now you know why your legal briefs are so long and written in such complicated language. Because remember, if a politician speaks the way a legal brief is written, there is no chance he'll ever get elected. If a military man ever issues orders the way a legal brief is written, he'll be shot through his head by the enemy even before he finishes dictating what is written. Okay. Now, the judiciary is very good at hiding it. But remember, these are ordinary people like you and me. There is nothing special about them. For all the flaws and things we have with our own education, with our own social setting, with our own traumas, personal traumas, interpersonal traumas, whatever, it applies to them as well. So you have an issue of pathetic legal education, a pathetic entrance exam, a low pool to begin with. And to give you an example of the pool, did you know, poll after poll after poll has found that 97% of Indian engineers are incapable of problem solving. 97%. So if any of you are sending your kids for an engineering degree, please remember that. Koi bade kaddu pe tir nahi mara hai apne. Okay. And that is not India's problem. India's problem is that 97% think that they are the remaining 3%. So they all want you to give them like multi-crore salaries every year and things like that, when they are not even worthy of producing a B-grade Maruti 800 replica. Like Kanchanda was saying before me, tell me one thing, for all our so-called software prowess, tell me one great program that you use that is Indian developed. Nothing. Do not expect the judiciary to be any different. It is a reflection. Yes, very good. Zoho, yay. It's the exception that proves the rule. Yay. Clap for Zoho. Zoho, everybody who clapped for Zoho is getting a free all expenses paid trip to Singapore. Yeah, Ku also, Ku, yay. Ku is sponsoring all expenses paid trip to Berlin. Fantastic. Now, when you have all of this, the lower judiciary is where maximum errors happen. Outright errors of judgment. And so we have a onerous appellate process, which then goes to the High Court, which then goes to the Supreme Court, etc., where, mind you, technically, in any appellate process, you are not allowed to bring in new facts, new arguments. It is the case that you have presented at the lowest court, which has to be heard over and over again. India is the only place where you can re-adjudicate at every stage of the process, till it reaches the Supreme Court, and even at the Supreme Court you can re-adjudicate it till you ask for a judicial review of it. Okay. Now, this all adds to the case pendency. So you have, well, how do I put this very politely to avoid going in jail? Let's say less than desirably competent judges from a very bad pool of education, racked with so many mistakes that everybody is constantly trying to correct the mistake of the other. And we're not even getting into police reforms. The moment I bring police reform as a variable in here, the negative synergies go through the roof. 2 plus 2 becomes minus infinity. Okay. And then, on top of all of this, you have corruption. You literally have Supreme Court judges who have land grabbing cases against them, outright cases of corruption against them, who were elevated without so much as even a cursory investigation. The objection to their elevation is on record. And not even the basics was done. So we come to the second problem. Where is the accountability? See, today, any of us, all of us hate some people. So you'll be like, avana paaren, avana na kolli potrano. Munji muttakos madri irukku. Okay. Now, muttakos madri, kosmalli pannradhukku seevu valya, muttakosa andha madri seevanonna. Okay. You want to grate the fellow to death. Great. What is preventing us from doing it? It is the surety that somebody is going to come and arrest me, throw me in jail, or hang me. Now, when you are sitting in a position like that, when you have exactly zero accountability, when just to get you on a charge of corruption, you have to go through the entire process of impeachment, not just by parliament, but also by the state assemblies and everything, who is going to take the effort to do that? Too much responsibility, too little accountability. This is your second problem. Well, it's second of many problems, but this is your next problem. Now, to cap it all, thinking of 4.7 crore cases and 70,000 just in the Supreme Court, you would have thought even a basic administrative reform like paperless courts would be something you can do. No. We have judgments today that run into 800, 900, 1,000 pages. You are not writing a novel. There are many publishers who are sponsors here. If you want to write a novel, please get in touch with them. Please do not get into the judiciary. Nobody is interested in your literary skills in the judiciary. We only want our judgment. Thank you very much. Okay. But 1,000-page judgments, why? Are you so stupid and verbose that you cannot condense something that you have to say into 1.5 pages? You can't summarize something into 1.5 pages. So, the bad English that we all learned, I never understood in school why I had to learn Shakespeare. Now, everybody thinks, oh, Shakespeare is so amazing. If you think Shakespeare is amazing, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. We no longer speak the language that way anymore. Okay, it was spoken that way 500 years back. Thine eyes are shrewd, lend me thine ears. I come here to not to praise Caesar, but to bury him. Who talks like that today? Why am I? Does it improve my English cognition? No. But you forget English, even Tamil or Hindi. You look at the Tamil that you're taught in school, does it bear any relation to what you have to say to get around in Pondicherry? Okay, assume you want to go buy fish in Pondicherry. மதிப்புக்கூறிய ஐயா அவர்களே எனக்கு சிறதளவு மீன் கொடுத்து விடவும் இந்த இதிலை போட்டு. Do any of you say that? No, na? You say, yo, மீன் போட்டு குடியா. That's it. So, we are taught Shakespeare and everything like that. We are not taught problem solving. We are not taught brevity. I would urge every one of you that uses Uber or Ola, I've done this in Hindi, I do this as an experiment every single time. Sir, वो जो लाल गाड़ी है, उसको पार करके right में रोक दीजिए. Pass the red car and stop on the right. அந்த சிகப்பு வண்டியை தாண்டி ரைட்ல நிப்பாட்டிக்கோங்க. ওই লাল গাড়িটা পার করে রাইটতে দাঁড়াও. Bengali, Tamil, Hindi, English, they understand nothing. Even that basic rudimentary education, he will either stop before or on the side of or whatever. He will not do exactly what you tell him to do. Try it. It's the simplest experiment you can do with your Ola or Uber driver. Try it. They will not be able to do it. So you have a linguistic problem. You know, we had to draft one law. I'm not going to tell you which law because then you'll know who the minister was or whoever. What we did was, as a think tank, we drafted a beautiful 1.5 pages, no more than 1.5 pages, and we stress tested it. We took it to every single police station to see, and we have about 4 or 5 different branches. So we did it in Madras, we did it in Calcutta, we did it in Bombay, we did it in Delhi. We stress tested it with police stations, asking them, do you understand this language? They said, हाँ sir, yes sir, ama sir, हाँ, shop kichu, okay, done. Then we took it to ordinary people on the streets, just random. There was no scientific methodology to that random testing. We asked them, do you understand it? Yes, we do. Is it easy to adjudicate? Yes, you can. Okay. So we took it back to the minister and said, sir, we have stress tested it. We have stress tested it everywhere. It is precise. It is concise. What kind of law have you given me? This is written in pedestrian English. And then when it goes before Parliament, it is 21 pages long. And I don't think my English is bad, but I needed serious help to understand what it was saying. Hereof, hereto, therein, thereof, mother of, father of, God knows what of. And this was passed. Now, मेरे को समझने में मुश्किल हो रही है. Can you imagine what a poor policeman sitting on the road, and it was one of those cognizable offenses. So he's meant to be able to make an arrest on the spot. Can you imagine that poor man's thing, how much time he has to spend just figuring out the head and tail of that law to make that arrest? Which brings me to the whole second problem, that everything has to go in front of a judge. You have this problem of cognizable offenses and non-cognizable offenses, and then you have bailable and non-bailable cases. Now, bail should be determined on one category only. One or two categories. The possibility of repeat, the heinousness of the crime, and third is the possibility of flight, that they run. But no, in India, or tampering as the case may be, in India, that is not the case. In India, you determine it based on the length of the conviction. If it is under 2 years, yes, you can get bail. If it is over 2 years, no, you cannot get bail. And most of these crimes are non-violent crimes. Overwhelmingly, 90% of them are non-violent crimes. So elsewhere, where you check the abuse of power by the legal system, you have to get an arrest warrant first before you arrest somebody. In India, you carry out the arrest first and then that is subjected to judicial. So the misuse of the law is not prevented, it is further taken, adding more to the caseload of your poorly educated and whatever. Okay, you get the drift. Yeah, I'm not saying it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Next, what happens is, with this pendency, it affects the quality of judgment because it affects the quality of time in front of the judges. I've literally been in court hearings where there are two witness testimonies being gathered in two different cases at the same time on the same screen. And I'm wondering, how is the judge listening to two different things? Is he able to, like Saraswati or Brahma, able to listen to two different things with his two different ears, or her two different ears, as the case may be? No, they clearly can't. But that shows you the quality of listening time that the judges are giving you. Then you have this entire thing of how our law is so hodgepodge, where it creates, see, there is a common law version and there is a civil law version. So a lot of countries, in Europe, for example, even in Britain, purely because of the length of the law, most of the law is extremely detailed and it is treated as settled law. Because it comes from civil law, which is very detailed, and the judge is not meant to have too much room for interpretation. He is just meant to act as the arbiter, almost as a column checker. But in American and English law, which we have inherited, which is Anglo-Saxon common law based, the judge is both the inquisitor and the arbiter. He has a huge amount of leeway. The laws are left deliberately loose so that you leave a huge amount of leeway for the judge to interpret it. Now, we've already determined the quality of education that they're getting and their ability to problem solve. On top of this, you want the entire nonsense of a common law based thing. And even that common law, you have mangled it, because in some cases, for example, with crimes related to women, violence against women and things, you have reversed it to the Napoleonic Code. At least the one redeeming feature of the Anglo-Saxon Code is you are innocent until proven guilty. But with the Napoleonic Code, the arrest is not carried out till a major investigation has happened with extraordinary rigor, where you are deemed mostly guilty. Do you have the police to be able to carry out a proper investigation? They can't. So you keep mixing different, so you mix civil jurisprudence, you mix Napoleonic jurisprudence, you mix Anglo-Saxon common law jurisprudence, and this is what you end up with. So you have a hodgepodge like this, it doesn't work. So all the negative synergies, everything that I've been telling you is all these negative synergies building up. Now, the executive pushed back against this. They wanted to set up tribunals for everything. So, there was the Green Tribunal, there is the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, which hears these disputes. It also frames the law, it hears the disputes, and it settles those disputes. But the judiciary didn't want that. If you think 4.7 crore pendency cases is not enough for you, they also said none of these tribunals will be valid unless a judge sits on them. So it becomes a gravy train for all the retired judges. And to get onto that, you have to be extremely sympathetic to the government. And then you get onto all these tribunals. And even then, the point of a tribunal was to take basic factual disputes away from the judiciary. No, even that you cannot do. So they want to keep centralizing more and more powers to adjudicate to themselves. They go out of their way to mix Napoleonic jurisprudence, common law jurisprudence, civil law jurisprudence, so that they get the power to do all of this. And even that job they can't do properly. Next, it is not just the education of their lords that is wanting. I have several cases running. The hearing itself, if you left it, would be 30 minutes. But the hearings last something like 4 or 5 hours. Do you know why? Because 4.5 hours, you just have to sit and dictate to the fellow transcribing it, because he doesn't know English, he doesn't know Hindi, he doesn't know Urdu, he doesn't know Swahili, he doesn't know German, he doesn't know French, he doesn't know squat. He doesn't even know the pronunciation of your name, and even if you write it in front of him and put it in front of him, he still makes a mistake on it. Thank you. So, you have all these things adding up. 4 or 5 hours for a 30-minute court hearing. Judge is not able to problem solve. And then finally, last issue, is the thing of the senior advocate. So what, does everybody know what a senior advocate, how to become a senior advocate? Good, nobody knows. There is meant to be a criteria, but basically, to become a senior advocate, not one judge in that High Court or Supreme Court should dissent against it. Now, you all know what Margaret Thatcher said about consensus. It's a decision that nobody believes in, that everybody agrees to take because it is suitably devoid of any conviction. So this is how a senior advocate is appointed. Now, senior advocate works well in the British system, where you have a barrister and a solicitor. Okay, the solicitor does all the research and everything, the barrister does the argument in court. Here, barrister, solicitor, all the same? No, but they want to create this. Then you have senior advocates who become law minister, who have the power to make judges, whose kids very curiously become senior advocates even before they finish their law degrees, or their puppies right out of the pound. So when you have all of this happening, I want you to sit back and reflect. We all talk about, oh, just the right hates Justice Chandrachud, the left hates Justice Khanvilkar, who just retired. I want you to sit and think on every one of these other points that I've given you. Most of these are solvable merely by executive fiat. I am not even going into the unconstitutionality of the basic structure judgment or the collegium that was born out of it. The collegium represents an ongoing insurrection against I wouldn't say an armed, it's not an armed insurrection, but it is an insurrection against the Constitution, it is an insurrection against the law. There is no provision for it in the Constitution. Show me one place in the Constitution where it says collegium. It does not. And yet it is a legal fiction our government follows. But don't even go there. That is a very high apple to reach. I'm giving you all the low-hanging fruit. All of these are solvable through executive fiats. And yet they will not be done. And ask yourself why. Well, it's because your bureaucrats and your politicians come from that exact same pool that your judges come from. So with that wonderful IIT education where 97% of engineers can't problem solve, you have 97% of bureaucrats, if you extrapolate the numbers, who can't problem solve their things, 97% of politicians who can't problem solve their issues, and, well, the one which I don't want to invoke contempt of court. Thank you very much. So I will end here. Please meet all the respective people for your awards. The Rolls-Royce